Coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, Amazon is selling fake AMD CPUs. We'll get into details to what is going on there. Microsoft wants to give AI to gamers because that's what everyone wants. Nvidia is gaslighting everyone into thinking there's no supply issue. You think there's a supply issue? No, they did way better. And AI powered Siri is not coming anytime soon. All that more coming today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, North Stewie. I'm good about this Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. We've got quite a bit to talk about. I want to start off and hit the ground running right away because, well, we got things to do. We got important things to do. First off, I want to get this PSA out there. This probably is no longer relevant right now. I admit that. The issue that caused the scam I'm about to detail out more than likely has already been rectified, but it is still fascinating to see that this happened. Amazon customer receives a fake Ryzen 7 9800X3D, and the fake is not convincing at all because all the fake is an old AMD bulldozer CPU, or it could be pile driver, I don't know. They're both titanic pieces of hot garbage with a sticker over it. So the CPU doesn't even look even remotely close to the Ryzen CPU. The design and everything is completely different. There's no way it's even going to fit into the socket. Here's the wild thing. The user bought this directly from Amazon. This wasn't like a third-party seller or anything. This wasn't like, oh, well, that's what you get for buying it from scammersinc.com on the Amazon marketplace. No. This was direct shipment from Amazon, which means Amazon's stock was tampered, which that's impressive. This also raised the question, since they arrived in a sealed box, why did the scammers even bother with the sticker? Because when you look at a Ryzen CPU, the integrated heat spreader, like right from a glance, the very shape of it is very different from the old CPUs of the bulldozer era. Bulldozer is a pinned CPU. I don't even have one of those anymore where the pins are actually on the CPU itself. Ryzen is, what is it, LGA? I believe LGA. LGA, I believe, is the thing where the pads are on the CPU and the pins are in the actual socket. Like the only thing that is the same between these two CPUs, the bulldozer CPU and the one it's trying to impersonate, is the fact they're both made by AMD. That's it. Everything else isn't the same. Even the shape isn't the same. So why do you even bother with the sticker? That's what I want to know. Someone in chat says you can see the CPU in the box. It's clear. Oh, that makes sense. Now that makes sense. It has been so long since I've actually bought like a brand new CPU. So yeah, that checks out. Oh man. So yeah, more than likely Amazon is already going through their stock because this is not the look they want to have for themselves. But if you ever feel like you're getting the feeling that Amazon is just full of disappointment and scams, you're not alone, because man, it does seem to be rampant, and this is not helping the case. Granted, this of course was completely and utterly unintentional. We shouldn't be blaming Amazon for this at all. We should, well, Amazon does hold some blame that this happened, but it's not like they actively went to scam anyone. Meanwhile, though, did you know that all Chromecasts were just like not functional for like, oh, I don't know, almost the whole week? Yeah, apparently on March 9th, all Chromecasts that use at least the second generation Chromecast and Chromecast audio devices found that they were just not working at all. Period. End of story. This is apparently due to a authentication certificate problem. So now Google has in fact rolled out a fix for their Chromecasts, and that's all said and done. The the belief is that it's because the certificate for these devices was set to expire in 2025 and just Google never updated it. That's so stupid. That is such a stupid excuse. And the worst part is I believe them. I believe that Google would be so short-sighted that they would have an authentication certificate and they would just not care that its expiration date was only a few years out from the creation of the device. Isn't that Google in a nutshell? They probably didn't even think they were going to be selling Chromecast that long anyway. Google. But now the new update certificate authority now has an expiration date of 2045, meaning that something else will go wrong before yours will no longer work. Now, here's what I gotta ask. What'd you do for the generations after the second gen? Are we gonna have the same problem with the third gen? Are we gonna have this problem with the third gen of Chromecast devices? Or the fourth gen devices? Like, are we just gonna not update any of these? Someone in chat says security certs often have shorter periods. You know what also they often do? They often update them! More often than not, they're actually kept up to date properly. Man, Google. The weird short-sightedness you have and the lack of support you give to your own customers staggers me. But you're just what we live with, apparently. For one reason or another. Speaking of living with them for one reason or another, HP printers had a firmware update that made them worse than normal. So already HP printers are a strange amalgamation of malice and office equipment. For you see, HP printers always have a certification program built within that they will refuse to function unless you have proper HP materials in them. Heck, if HP could get away with it, they would make it so that you have to use HP paper. And yet HP is still the GOAT when it comes to older black and white printers, or black and white laser printers, I should say. Thank God that their newer tech didn't make it into those. But here's the kicker. Their own, someone in chat says HP electricity. I am not ready for my electrical grid inside my house to be HP compliant in order to be able to use the printer. I think at that point, first off, I don't even have a printer anymore. But second, I think at that point, it definitely is just like, all right, let's go use anyone else. Just anyone else. I will go borrow a next door neighbor with a pen and paper and tell them to copy this before getting an HP printer if they start doing that. That's insane. But yeah, the firmware update went ahead and managed to make the HP printers think that HP cartridges were not HP cartridges and effectively bricked the machine as the machine began to reject its own parts, including the ink cartridges. Just in case you wanted to find a new reason to hate HP printers or just hate brand specific DRM compliance for repair components or consumable components with office equipment, here you go. Here's some more. HP printers. There's very little reason to like them anymore. No joke. Meanwhile, a very essential piece of software known as Ring Zero or WinRing Zero now is being flagged by Windows as a threat. Now, if you've never heard of WinRing Zero, it is most likely because you're normal. But WinRing Zero is an essential component for many PC monitoring tools and is used by various gamer applications such as MSI Afterburner in order to monitor the specs and operating speeds of the computer. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Windows Defender now begins to see that as a hack tool. Now, I have no idea why it has begun doing this, but I will say I'm not amused. I'm just not amused. Just no. Absolutely not. So hopefully Windows Defender will get patched very soon to, allow essential tools for a lot of people's hardware monitoring jobs to function correctly. Someone in chat says, there's your problem. Your PC is running Windows. That's a well-known piece of malware right there. Yeah, just embrace the penguin. Easy. Or, you know, maybe you should instead just move on to the consoles, because of course PC gaming nowadays is just so expensive. We're all priced out of the market entirely. Just embrace the consoles. And if you're worried that you're going to be missing certain features, don't worry. Xbox says they're going to be bringing Copilot, their AI powers, over to the Xbox. So you can have an AI-driven sidekick to help you game. Isn't that what people want when they game? For someone to be over their shoulder and tell them how to game? Now you'll always have one. And it's artificial. It's the best of no worlds. Seriously, who listened to what I just said and thought, oh yes, my Dark Souls experience will be complete now that I got freaking AI powered sidekick telling me how to dodge roll in Dark Souls? Isn't that great? That's fantastic. That's just fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, I was already more of a fan of Nintendo and Sony, more Sony than Nintendo. I mean, like, look, like all the consoles, you got problems. Microsoft has always felt kind of out of touch with people who actually want to go ahead and have control over their library. Sony just seems to be malice incarnate. And then Nintendo just looks at the malice incarnate that is Sony and says, hold my beer, and then goes sue some guy into literal bankruptcy while saying, here we go. Now I'm liable for suing because I said, here we go. It's all over for me. So it's like, who do you pick? Oh yeah, and then the mobile gaming genre is just a parasite on society. I forgot about the fourth console in existence. Just what more can you do but sigh? Just shake your head and sigh. Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of benefit of AI gaming or an AI assistant to gaming. I don't think any gamer actually wants that. Maybe there'll be some other feature they haven't told us about yet that sounds really attractive, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't see it. I just don't. Meanwhile, in Xbox news we might actually care about, they have announced an Xbox powered handheld. Will you look at that? It's something you actually might want. Now, their plan for this is interesting. What they first want to do is that they want to get out a handheld that's built by a third-party partner right now. And then in 2027, with their next-gen consoles, which, by the way, I guess our next-gen consoles are going to be in 2 years. There we go. And then they'll launch their handheld then. Zona Chat says, is it streaming? As far as we're aware right now, no. I'm sure it will have capabilities of streaming, but we have no reason to believe it is going to be exclusively for video game streaming, other than the fact there's an Xbox logo on it. But I mean, if the thing launches for $400, you know, as a Steam Deck competitor and is exclusively for cloud gaming, well, we're just going to point and laugh at you and not do that. Others might go ahead and look at this and say, you know, I think that's a sign. It is a sign that Microsoft feels weak in the face of Linux gaming, which is quite possible. Just like we all feel weak at the sight of the greatness that is Lip Bhutan, the new CEO of Intel, a CEO that we know very little. In fact, I don't even know if I even pronounced his name correctly. Not gonna lie. It could be something radically different. Someone could tell me that his name is Jeff, and I just don't know how to pronounce it at all. And they could be correct. I have no idea. So he is going to be stepping up as the new CEO of Intel. And basically from what we're seeing, he's basically more of a corporate guy, which I'm not going to lie is possibly not good news for Intel. Here's the situation with Intel right now, right? Right now, Intel has bad reputation on their CPUs, a not good, but not bad reputation for their GPUs, and even are starting to creep into a market that desperately needs a shakeup in the GPU market. They are losing their market share to their lifelong competitor. And quite frankly, technology-wise, they are falling behind. And the problem is with a corporate CEO, someone who is going to be exclusively looking at the numbers, you know what you're going to see a lot of? Oh, well, we're bad, the GPUs anyway. We're not going to do that. We're out. We're out of the GPU space. It drains money. It doesn't make us that much. Get rid of it. Oh, what's that? We're going ahead and trying to expand our chip production in the US. Yeah, no, get rid of that. Move that to somewhere cheaper. The end. Like, you're going to see a lot of those moves. And quite frankly, not a fan. I'm not. Because that might help Intel's bottom line. It doesn't help them in the long term. It helps them very much in the short term only. What needs to happen is not only technologically do their CPUs need to beat out AMD, they need to beat out ARM. They need to beat out the performance per watt of ARM. And if they can't even beat out the performance per watt of AMD, what chance do they have against ARM? Without that, Intel's sunk. They're not going to last. They're just going to be stuck forever as a minor builder of other ARM chips and making a fraction of what they used to. So we'll see what they come up with, but I'm just saying right now, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the future of Intel. You know what else isn't looking good? What's not looking good is the logic that Nvidia has for their availability. All right. So the question that is going to Nvidia right now is, of course, where are the GPUs? They've launched 4 GPUs. None of that can stay in stock. What is going on? And it's not that they're selling that much, because their sale numbers aren't that impressive either. And then what they are selling is defective. You know what Nvidia's response is? Our production is way ahead of schedule. We have actually producing 100% more RTX 50 series than we have 40 series around the same time. You know what the problem is with that statement? That they made twice as many 50 series as they made 40 series. When the 40 series launched, it was only the 4090. By the same time, Nvidia's launched the RTX 5090, 5080, 5070 Ti, and 5070. You've launched 4 different tiers of cards, 3 of which have a much bigger user base than your top tier, your 90 series card, and you've only produced twice as many more. Did you really just try to make us think that there's not a supply issue because you made twice as many cards you did last time, but then ignored the fact that what you made last time around this time is vastly different than what you're making this time? Bro, this is embarrassing. This is absolutely embarrassing. And oh, here's the best part, okay? Someone in chat says data center products are likely shipping. Well, funny you mentioned that, because guess what Nvidia's announced? Nvidia has announced the brand new RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell GPU for professionals. That's right. The Pro cards are just launching now. Are you kidding me? What are you doing? Nvidia, what are you doing? Like, this can't be it. Like, they have to be making something else. They just aren't, like, telling the public, right? There has to be some kind of data center product they've been selling behind the scenes, right? There has to be something. This can't be it. This can't be the first time we're seeing professional grade cards or enterprise level cards on Blackwell, right? Like, what is going on with Nvidia? This is the most clown car incompetence I have ever seen from them. On top of that, by the way, yes, this graphic here I'm showing from videocards.com is actually the official RTX Pro 6000 cards, which is extra hilarious because when it comes to workstations, do I actually have a Quadro card near me? I don't think I do. You have to fit very specific thresholds. Okay? It's not like a gaming card where you can just, it's got to kind of fit into a case and leave it to the consumer to figure it out. That's basically how it goes. No. You have to be precise. Your card can only be a certain width, it can only be a certain height, and it can only be a certain length. And that length can vary, but it cannot exceed a certain point. For example, let me go ahead and get my grid card over here, because the grid card is always a good prop, despite being a dead card. Actually, here, this Quadro will work. Okay. Now, this is an ancient Nvidia Quadro card right here that I have here. It is a Quadro FX 4800. This is actually from the Fermi generation. This thing is ancient. Okay. But it has to fit within a certain threshold. It cannot be taller than this. All right. It has to be this tall. It cannot be more than 2 slots. And the length, if it doesn't go out far enough, usually they'll have some kind of brace, and it's an industry standard brace like this. So that way, when they're slotted into workstations or into servers, they fit in perfectly, and the very precise thermal solution they come up with these cards work with them. Do you know what I noticed when I first look at the RTX Pro 6000? It's too tall. That's not going to fit in any workstation because every workstation has brace arms to hold them down. Every single one, even current ones do. Nvidia, what are you doing? Like, if this is actually how the card launches, lo and behold, just about every single factory workstation, every single certified workstation is not going to be able to hold one of these cards. You know what I'm noticing in the pictures? You know what they're not showing? They're not showing the power connector. Even video cards, who is reporting on the card, has to speculate whether it's using the 16 pin power connector or not. But the sucker is going to have 96 gigabytes of memory, you know, just in case you wanted to feel that Nvidia just ruined you as far as the amount of memory they decided to give you this generation, which was none. They also gave you no performance either this generation. So, I mean, if you wanted extra reason why Nvidia's flipping you off, here you go. They gave it to the professionals while also hosing the professionals. Good job. A+, number 1. Isn't that great? I wonder if Dell, Lenovo, and HP all know that the Precision Z stations and ThinkCentres all are not going to be able to contain the brand new RTX Pro 6000 unless they do drastic modifications, because they were good boys and designed their chassis to the actual industry standards. And Nvidia's like, nah, we're better than that. God, in case you thought that Nvidia was being responsible or actually cared about the professionals, no, they apparently don't. This is wild. But now here's the thing, right? You have Nvidia trying to gaslight their users, thinking that the supply is not that bad, and they're doing everything they can. They actually did twice as much as they did last time, which is laughable. You know how AMD responds to their shortage of stock? They tell it as it is. They just said straight up, the demand for their Radeon 9070 and 9070 XT is unprecedented, and restocking at MSRP is their priority number 1. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like that answer, but holy smokes, I love that answer way more than what Nvidia just tried to do. At least AMD is looking at their situation and just like, we can't keep these in stock. That's a problem. Do we have an answer to that problem? No. Okay, we'll just tell it like it is. I like that answer better than Nvidia trying to tell us we're doing twice as much as before. I'm telling you, we put out twice as many cards as we did of the 4090 last year. So congrats to AMD for having the only demand for GPUs right now, simply because, well, there's no one else to get GPUs from. What are you going to do? Get it from Nvidia? There's nothing there. There's just nothing there. Finally, though, we're going to go ahead and talk about one last thing from AMD. And that is the fact that AMD now revealed the Ryzen 9 9950X3D. Here's a spoiler for you. It's the best consumer CPU in the market. Shocker. When you go ahead and give the Ryzen 9 9950X 3D V cache and improve it a little bit, it turns out it gets that much better and is now the new king, and there's nothing that comes close to it unless you go into the crazy, insane world of enthusiast chips, which, by the way, AMD also tops in. Surprise! Seriously, who is surprised by this? Is anyone surprised? Yep. The newest high-end chip is still the newest high-end chip. It's still good to see that there's no big problems. So with that, good job, AMD. Now, hopefully, no one tries to go ahead and rip people off by sticking a sticker onto a bad AMD CPU and selling that instead. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. When we come back, I want to get to the problems with Google and with Siri. Don't go anywhere. We will be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Here's some concerns if you have some DVDs from 2006 and 2008. They may be rotting. Unironically, there is a case now of Warner Brothers DVDs between the years of 2006 and 2008 that have a defect and are actually suffering from disc rot. If you do in fact have these discs, you are told that you actually should get in touch with someone, I guess, to get those taken care of. Whoops. So, you know, just in case you thought that DVDs were also forever, apparently not. That's unfortunate. There is no other information as far as when exactly it is going on. I should reiterate, I thought I did before, but it is specifically Warner Brother DVDs from 2006 to 2008. Someone in chat tried to clarify that. I was like, did I not make that clear? Let me go ahead and re-clarify. This is specifically affecting Warner Brother DVDs between the years of 2006 and 2008. Let's go ahead and just make sure that's as clear as possible. If you have these, you may want to get in touch with Warner Brothers. Good luck. And get replacements for these, especially since apparently, according to the Ars Technica at least, some of these things there are no digital copies of, which, challenge accepted. I'm sure if I dig hard enough, somewhere on the internet, someone has a digital copy of this, of some movie out there. Because if there's one thing I know about the internet, they will archive and hoard anything and everything they choose to, and then torrent it, legally or illegally. Everything on the internet is forever. It is the one rule of the internet that still holds true to this day. Meanwhile, though, the Google Pixel 4a has a problem. And that is the fact that the battery overheats. So it received a crucial update to manage the battery. And by manage the battery, I mean make its battery life awful to mitigate the overheating issues. And then to make matters even worse, some countries, such as Australia, looked at this attempt to intentionally gimp older hardware as insufficient for solving the problem, which, I'm not gonna lie, kind of agree. Someone in chat says it's a 5-year-old phone or so. That's a good point. Here's my counterpoint. Would you be okay if they didn't issue a recall on a car that turned out could overheat and combust just because it's 5 or 10 years old, and they find out later on that it has an overheating issue that can cause problems? Do you think that would fly? So that's the problem, is intentionally putting out a software update that makes the phone that can work now make it basically almost non-functional because the software update reduces its battery life by over half. No, I'm not saying they should treat this like a car. Do not misunderstand that. I just use that as a very quick, vague example. I'm not saying they should go ahead, recall every single Pixel 4a and replace every battery for free. All right? I'm not saying that at all. All right? What I am saying, though, is there should be a program to at least say, hey, here's a battery, here's how to replace it, go nuts. They should, at the very least, do something like that, rather than just put out a software update to go ahead and say, yeah, your battery life now sucks. Now, we are very quickly running out of time because we have had a problems here in the studio. So let's just very quickly go over some of the other issues. Or not really some of the other issues, some of the other big stories. Like, let's just get to Apple real quick. All right, let's get to Apple and their AI problem. Apple has delayed the launch of Apple intelligence-powered Siri indefinitely. Yeah. For whatever reason, the AI-powered announcements that they launched for the iPhone, what are we on now, 16? They may not ever come out for the iPhone 16. For whatever reason, all the features are just not ready to roll out publicly yet. I wonder why. It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that generative AI kind of just has a well-known problem for hallucinating and just deciding, maybe I'll just do whatever. Just go ahead and lose our minds. Couldn't have anything to do with that, right? Apple has a very high standard for themselves. It's often why Apple seems behind the technological curve. They never want to be at the cutting edge because they're afraid of cutting themselves. And the entire generative AI movement is moving at breakneck speeds and cannot get over its biggest problem, which is AI hallucinations. Every single AI fanboy, fangirl, and fan whatever has just come to the acceptance that, yeah, AI hallucinates sometimes. And it's okay because of all the other greatness it offers, like its greatness. Yeah. Who cares if I try ask it for a recipe and it tells me to go ahead and make mustard gas instead? That's just the price of using AI. Whereas most people would look at that and say, no, you're not ready yet. I don't think a product should go ahead and give you instructions on how to poison yourself when I ask it for, a cool party drink recipe. I don't think that's good at all. That's, of course, one example. There's plenty of others out there, some of which have been patched out, some of which have not. So what's going to happen with Siri? Right now, it looks like it's just going to be as it is. We'll have to wait and see if Apple can get over this, but considering the fact that Apple is literally at the mercy of ChatGPT and not their own team, they have no idea. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Apple's going to move forward, knowing that they have just gotten completely burned by generative AI. In other news, though, Niantic has sold off Pokemon Go to Scopely, specifically the Savvy Games Corp subsidiary of Scopely. They are in charge of other games that you may have heard of and then realize that's a problem. See, like they've also been in charge of games. See, Scopely has done games like Monopoly Go and many other heavily monetized cash cow kind of games. It also now means that Pokemon Go is owned by a company that is strongly affiliated with Saudi Arabia, which is just great. Just great. Isn't it just great? So what can we expect? Well, I can tell you what we can expect then. I would expect Pokemon Go and the other games that are included in this deal, such as Pikmin Bloom and Monster Hunter Now, are all going to just be heavily monetized, because the deal to acquire this was $3.5 billion. I don't know if Pokemon Go or any of these other two games together are worth quite that much. Pokemon Go in its heyday, oh yeah, definitely worth the money. Nowadays, I'm not too sure. So they're going to make sure they make their money back. I'm telling you right now, fans of this game, most likely not going to be pleased with what they see. And finally, we get to the last bird, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the man that the world actually did rebuild. Or at least they rebuilt his heart. And they reached a major milestone when crafting his artificial heart. It is the fact that he survived 100 days outside of the hospital on this artificial heart. Now, before you immediately assume that some mad scientist out there put a fake heart in a guy and tried to see how long he could live out there, no. I know that's what it sounds like, because that's exactly what it sounded like to me when I first read the article. No, it just took them 100 days to find a donor with a actual human heart to replace, and in the interim was able to survive on an artificial heart until the heart transplant could occur. So no, this man who survived with an artificial heart is still alive. Before you immediately assume that we got some mad scientist stuff going on here, it is still very, very impressive. But it also might be a sign that we are, in fact, one step closer to making an actual human cyborg that is ready to overthrow all of humanity. Between that and all of the AI stuff that is going on nowadays. Folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I do encourage you to check out my other works, twitch.tv/EagleFalcon and youtube.com/EagleFalcon. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you then. Bye-bye. All right, so what do we have to worry about next? Do we have to worry about, say, artificial lungs being next, artificial muscle? I know we already have, like, functional exosuits that enhance strength for people in, like, military operations or that sort of thing. But I just got to say I'm a little concerned with just how close we are to having an actual cyborg take over the world. Hopefully further away than I think.